Hello there, I'm Gloria Makarenko. Now back to school the kids go, which means autumn is just around the corner. This is Our Vancouver. Coming up, do trees in old-growth forests talk to one another? We are going to answer that question. And the co-founder of the restaurant On & Cheese shares some tips on how to keep back-to-school lunches fun and delicious. But first, we'll meet the Vancouver podcaster behind a new CBC series about the failed 2013 bomb plot at the BC Legislature. Now, it was a story that shook the entire province. BC's own terrorist plot that never happened. Yeah, in 2013, a married couple struggling with drug addiction suddenly found themselves at the center of a plot to blow up the BC Legislature on Canada Day. And what happened next to John Nuttall and Amanda Korody is the subject of a new CBC podcast series. It is launching September 6th. And we have the host and co-producer of Pressure Cooker, Dan Pierce, with us today. Dan, hello there.
Hello, Gloria.
What a story. And it's a story that lives on. What is the essence of this plot that happened back in 2013?
Yeah, well, I remember when I first started reading about this story in the news, and the big bullet points of the story were that a couple had been arrested on Canada Day for planting pressure cooker bombs at the BC Legislature. The RCMP touted it as a big win for terrorism, that the threat was real, but the public was never in danger, and the celebrations were all able to go on. And then everyone was kind of like, phew, good thing they stopped a terrorist attack. But then as the details started to emerge throughout the trial years later, the official narrative from the RCMP started to fall apart, and the picture became a lot different. We started learning more about the couple and their background, their history with addiction and poverty, and we started learning about the lengths that the police went to and the wild ride that they took this couple on, to putting them up in hotel rooms and taking them on ferry rides and buying their cigarettes and buying their groceries. And we learned that there was a big undercover operation in which an RCMP officer actually played the role of an Al-Qaeda operative offering to fund their jihadi plot. And then as this thing went along, it became clearer and clearer that this couple were not the serious terrorists that they imagined them to be, and the police started taking more and more active steps to actually carry out this plot when they were showing very little initiative to actually do it themselves.
Well, it's one of those cases where truth really is stranger than fiction. No? So you've decided to put this all together in a podcast. What's your approach?
Well, first of all, it was reaching out to the couple shortly after the Court of Appeal upheld the trial court's decision that the police had entrapped them. So suddenly, once the Court of Appeal upheld that decision, they were free to tell their story. So I got in touch with the couple through their lawyers. We spent about a year just building a relationship, just building that foundation of trust, because, you know, I wasn't the first person to come into their lives and say, hey, let me help you, you know? And so we really wanted to just build that strong foundation of trust. And once we had that, and the original idea actually was to make a movie. I'm a filmmaker, and I still have that dream of making a movie. And so in research for the screenwriting process, we recorded interviews. And I've made documentaries for a long time, so I made sure to record good sound, thinking that, you know, maybe this audio might have value. And we recorded about a dozen hours of interviews with the couple, getting the story from their perspective. And then their lawyers were very helpful in getting us all the defense exhibits from the trial, which included over 100 hours of surveillance footage from the actual undercover operation, and wiretaps and police operational reports and internal emails amongst the cops. And once we had that audio, the interviews with the couple and the surveillance footage, my collaborator and friend, Sarah Berman, who's a fantastic journalist, she started coming along on some of the interviews, and she suggested this would make a great podcast. So that was what we brought to the CBC.
Well, no kidding, and great journalistic instincts as well. Just keep it rolling, record whatever. You never know if you're going to need it, right, at the end of the day. So I'm glad you are going to be able to incorporate some of that into the podcast as well. And the story has a fresh twist just in the past week.
Absolutely, yeah. We just got the news that that John Nuttall and Amanda Korody have got a lawyer, and they are actually suing the Crown prosecutors, the RCMP investigators, and the governments of BC and Canada for their entrapment, for psychological damage, for malicious prosecution, and yeah, spiritual coercion, a whole litany of things that they've gone through that have caused them a great deal of harm in their lives. So that's a brand new development that's just come out in the last few days.
Wow, and so you've had a chance to spend a lot of time with the couple over the past couple of years.
Yes.
How are they today?
You know, it's interesting. They're kind of back to where they began in the first place before this all started. You know, they are still struggling with the trauma of what they've been through. They've told me about, you know, being haunted by nightmares. And then still struggling with poverty. But yeah, they are doing better. The last time I saw them, they were happy, and yeah, they definitely had struggles during the pandemic, as a lot of us did. But yeah, they seem to be doing quite a bit better now.
Well, as you lay it all out, when you're laying out the whole story there, it seems boggling that nobody actually stepped in to stop this RCMP sting operation.
Well, there were voices within the RCMP who actually did dissent from what was going on. There was a legal opinion that was given within the RCMP that basically thought that these people weren't worth it. These people weren't worth the trouble that was being put into this investigation and the cost, that they weren't serious. They're even from the undercover side of the investigation, the undercover shop was basically saying they were worrying and raising concerns that they were entrapping the couple, that they were exerting undue influence. And those voices from within the RCMP were silenced, they were shuffled aside, and the lead investigator really sort of took control of the investigation in an unprecedented move, and you know, basically decided, no, we need to push them harder. And so those voices ultimately won out in the end.
Well, and what do you think it is about the staying power of this particular story that, again, unfolded almost 10 years ago?
Well, I think that, I mean, just the top line details were so stunning when I first read them at the time. And what struck me as we got deeper and deeper into the details of the story and watching all the tape is that it only gets wilder and wilder. The details are absolutely mind-blowing, and you know, the news cycle doesn't really have the time or the space to really be able to elaborate on so many of those details and really play the tape. And with this long-form piece, we have that space in that room to really put you in the car with them and ride along and be in the hotel room while they're building the bombs, but also while they're debating, like, should we do this? Is this right? Is this okay with our religion? Are we going to be killed if we back out of this thing? Because they thought they were dealing with Al-Qaeda. So just there's such a depth of detail to this story that we're able to get into now that really hasn't been heard yet.
I cannot wait to hear this podcast, Dan, and look forward to the movie version, which sounds as if you got lots of material for that too.
Yeah, fingers crossed.
All the best to you.
Thank you so much.
This is our Vancouver.
I love this part of the program. This is where we get to showcase some of the photographs that you send in. So thank you very much for that. We'll start with this one from Richard Topping. He sent in this perfect moment of a bee settling on a late summer flower. Thank you so much for that. Now, Susan Thompson captured this dramatic sky over Walnut Grove in Langley, an otherwise ordinary suburban scene completely transformed. And finally, Norm Stack says this young osprey was on its first flight over the Fraser River. The detail on that bird is just stunning. Thank you very much. And do send us more if you're out with your cameras. Choose your favorite shots and forward them to us. bcphotos@cbc.ca. That's bcphotos@cbc.ca. Keep them coming. All right, the Little Mountain Little Leaguers, they were welcomed to cheers as they landed in Vancouver this week. The team had been representing Canada at the Little League World Series in Pennsylvania. And while they didn't claim the world title, the BC players say that representing the country was a dream come true.
It's the warm welcome you get when you've spent the last month representing Canada on the world stage.
The past couple weeks have been insane. It's been crazy.
It's that same cheer Vancouver-based Little Mountain Little Leaguers heard mid-August when beating Team Prairies to claim the national title.
That is strike three, and Little Mountain has reached the top. BC is going to the Little League World Series.
The team is back in BC as their run comes to an end, which went from local games all the way to the Little League World Series in Pennsylvania, the first time for Little Mountain in 12 years.
You dream of this, but you always know that there's so many pieces that have to fall into place to make this happen, and it's just, yeah, I mean, Ben probably said it's like a dream come true.
The team lost to Curacao last week, knocking them out of the round robin, but not before beating Australia and powerhouse Japan, a team that has won several world champions over the years.
Just felt like we shocked the world. Nobody expected that to happen, so I think we have lots to be proud of.
We've worked hard for some of these guys for many years now, with my son on the team as well. We've been playing since he was 4, so yeah, it's a very proud moment being a father and a coach.
How was it being there with your dad?
Yeah, it was awesome since he's like the manager and everything.
Do you always listen to him?
No, not always.
Before flying back to Vancouver, the team made a stop in Toronto where they were recognized on the field by the Blue Jays. What's next?
I don't know what we have planned.
School?
Oh yeah, I guess we have school.
Yeah.
I'm not excited about that though.
But the celebrations aren't over yet. Staff saying they've been invited to meet the Vancouver Canucks and the Vancouver Canadians at Nat Bailey Stadium.
These guys were celebrities in Williamsport, and yeah, it'll be a little bit of an adjustment back to, reality.
And after a whirlwind summer, the team is determined to make it back to the Worlds again next year, where they hope to hit it out of the park. Isabel Regam, CBC News at YVR.
Coming up, Science Smart with Johanna Wagstaffe breaks down a new report that says climate change will cost Canadians billions, and it all trickles down to water.
Yes. Support candidates at the level.
A new report titled Aquanomics was published by GHD, a global engineering and architecture firm looking at the cost of climate change to global economics, and it made a few waves. First of all, it looked at the impact of climate change at individual countries' GDPs and also broke it down into 5 different market sectors, but all through the lens of water. And it's often said water is how we will continue to experience the impacts of climate change, either through the excess of water, too much through storms and floods, or too little, with the result being droughts. So this study found globally in between the years 2022 and 2050 will take a hit of almost $5.6 trillion to the global economy. Canada, though, also going to see a big hit individually. Our cost because of climate change to our economy, about $140 billion, again, between now and the year 2050. We spoke to an expert from the University of Waterloo, not connected to this study, but he backed up the results of this research, even though this research used economic modeling rather than climate modeling. He agreed that the lens of water is going to be an impactful one.
A lot of the Canadian industry is dependent on water, and it's not just primary agricultural production, like in the western part of the country. It's a whole host of economic activities, from the chemical industry to the food processing industry, the textile industry that depends on the availability of water.
The biggest market sector expected to continue to be hit is in manufacturing and distribution. And British Columbians really saw that after the 2021 floods, when our major routes for distribution were essentially washed out, or infrastructure washed out after those floods. This report really was a call to action, with hard numbers being put on that impact on such a short timeline. Scientists are hoping this will spur action.
And now you're science smart. If you have a science question on your mind, send me a tweet and I'll try to get it answered.
Johanna, thank you very much. You are watching Our Vancouver. I'm Gloria Makarenko, and here we are. It's almost time to head back to school in BC, and that means it's also time for parents of young kids to start planning and preparing daily lunch boxes. So, for some fresh ideas, for some fun ideas for back to school outside of the box, Amelie Nguyen from An Chi Restaurant is with us today. Amelie, hello and welcome.
Thank you, Gloria, for having us.
Okay, you're a mom.
Yes.
You're a professional woman as well. A little bit of a career shift recently for you.
Yes, my eldest daughter, she's going into kindergarten, so I think it's a good time to, you know, do something more flexible, and then also put more of my time and heart into An Chi, our family business.
Okay, so what were you doing?
Oh, I'm a policy analyst for population public health.
Okay.
You know, creating healthy communities to promote health and prevent illnesses among the population.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay, now let's just talk a little bit about the history of An Chi as well, because this really has been a family affair right from the get-go.
Yes. Well, our connection to food has gone back 3 generations. My grandma used to cook food in noodle stalls. My parents, when they first came over as refugees, they, you know, had a pop-up noodle shop in their rental home, and now 30-something odd years later, we're still running a restaurant, and it's now established as An Chi. So, you know, back then, my parents did a tiny little restaurant. My dad passed away. Brother and I were kind of in school, but he dropped out of medical school to continue our family legacy, and then we established An Chi, and now we're 7 years in, and it's quite exciting.
It's exciting. It's an incredibly popular restaurant as well. You just have to drive by, and there's always a lineup outside, and it's definitely worth waiting for. Let's talk about Amelie, the mom, right now, and you brought in your girls' lunch boxes, which I just love. What is your approach to making lunches for your girls?
You mean besides An Chi takeout?
Yeah, exactly. That's always handy, I'm sure.
Well, you know, our daughters love pasta, they love rice, but you know, sometimes you have to start introducing healthy options, and Vietnamese food is filled with herbs, filled with vegetables, and so today, actually, I brought some things to make fresh salad rolls and fresh banh mi baguette, and I also like our routine, I kind of sneak in once or twice a week some healthy options. We might have it for dinner, and then, you know, as I'm packing the leftovers, I'm creating their lunch the night before.
Okay, I like that idea too. Reusing and repurposing leftovers from dinner the night before, and adding little things like pickles or sliced vegetables or
anything you have in your fridge, like cucumbers, lettuce. If you have herbs in your garden, there's mint. We have basil and shiso here. Rice vermicelli you can get from any grocery store. Radishes, tomatoes, anything you have here. We have some of Mom's pickled carrots and daikon. My kids love it. They go straight for this, and they just eat it. And you know, it's a little bit pickled, but it's a source of vegetables, right? It's a good start.
Okay, and I know you brought some little sides here as well. Can we just start with how you assemble a banh mi?
Banh mi,
So banh mi, beautiful. First of all, this bread feels just gorgeous anyway, but any household bread will do, but it's nice to reuse a baguette, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Garlic aioli.
Garlic aioli.
Yes.
Oh my God, is there mustard in here too, or is that just
both
sides?
Like the
Doesn't
butter.
matter.
Just smother it.
I will.
And then I can help you. And you know, we have here, so this chicken is marinated in a touch of Maz chili fish sauce and sweet soy sauce. I use those as dressing, but they also work as marinades.
Hey, wait a second. You have helped to develop some of those sauces. All of those sauces, that's become sort of a sideline for you here.
Yes. Well, COVID hit. Restaurants were shut. We had to get the taste into people's homes. People, you know, it was lonely at home.
Yes.
So we were like, okay, how do we get An Chi to people's homes? So we developed the sauces, bottled, and the Maz fish sauce has won the Gold Award for Best Made in Vancouver product, locally made.
Bravo.
And so from that, I think, you know, springboarding and, you know, having that career shift.
Yes.
I think I'm going to try to see and get these into local grocery stores and maybe across Canada.
I think you're probably going to have a very easy time of that. Okay, so you've marinated the chicken. So we're putting chicken onto the... Okay. And then?
We can have cucumber.
Love it. Little crunch.
Oh, what else? Oh, these ones.
Okay, that's
My
the daikon.
children
The
love,
daikon,
love,
and
love.
you need the crunch. You need that's the whole
Love,
point
love,
of it.
love,
It's
love,
so
love.
much of it is about texture and crunch when you're doing it, and that freshness. So this you could do morning of. This is going to stay fine, you know, through their first few hours of
Yes.
of
And
the morning.
some kids don't like greens. My kids don't. Maybe yours do. I'm gonna put it for
I
the
do.
looks. You do? Amazing. And so and I would sprinkle just a touch of the sweet soy sauce. It just adds like a roundness to it. Ooh.
Beautiful. Oh, I'm smelling it. No, the aroma is gorgeous.
And that's it.
And wouldn't you love to just open that up in the lunchroom at school? Now, very quickly here, you're basically using these kind of ingredients. Can we just show them how you, because this is the finished salad roll here. You use the same thing in here?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So.
How would you do that?
Okay. This is tricky. So rice paper, it's so delicate. Kids love it. My kids eat this on its own, as if it was like a
It doesn't
snack.
stick to the counter or anything? You can just
No.
spill a bit of, okay.
And then I'm gonna do some lettuce. And if you want to be stylish, Roly, you can leave some of the lettuce stems on the outside.
Yes.
I'm gonna make a tofu roll. It's just really basic. There's rice.
You can use any protein you want here. But you did bring some salamis here if you wanted to go that direction. But let's go tofu.
Yes, we're gonna do tofu for this one.
This is beautiful. I love
Right?
this. Yeah.
And this is just organic tofu. You can
this
have
is also
it
marinated
steamed.
as well?
This one is not marinated, but because salad rolls, I always add a little sauce on the side.
Right.
They will dip it.
I see.
So this one is actually like just straight up,
Super plain.
Super plain, super healthy.
But essentially, you could do this with the chicken too, or with the salami. Okay, these ingredients are just however you want to wrap it. Gotcha.
So if you have rice paper at home, or if you have some bread at home, either or. Let's see.
A little bit of color.
A little bit of color.
And crunch.
No, we'll see. You know, sometimes I introduce things to my children. They don't eat it, but
don't tell them it's good for them. That's the main thing.
And here, this is special. This is Raman and Chi. You don't necessarily need to have it, but they are, it's like a carrot, kind of sliced carrot and jicama mix. But this is, so you just roll it really tight.
Yeah, it didn't break.
And then
you
there
know what
you
you're
go.
doing. That is, and you've got a whole bunch of them here as well. And that's just,
you cut it in half, you wrap it up in saran wrap or a container.
The little extras here before you go.
Yes.
Why not add some mango?
The kids love mango.
Blueberries.
Apple, blueberries, yogurt.
Yeah.
They love Elsa.
Those are
Paw
all.
Patrol. Cheese strings.
Your girls are very, very lucky. I hope you have a great time this fall as they get settled into new classes, and all the best with An and Chi too.
Thank you. Good luck, moms and dads, parents.
If you would like to go and see some live music, country singer-songwriter Tim Hicks plays the Commodore Ballroom September 8th. And indie favorite Joel Plaskett plays the Capitol Ballroom in Victoria, also September 8th.
Hey, I'm Grant Lawrence from CBC Music, and I'd like to either introduce you to or maybe reacquaint you with a really cool and wholly unique sounding band that calls Calgary home. They're called Ghostkeeper. They have a great new single out, but before I share that with you, let me take you back to one of the first songs that I ever heard from Ghostkeeper that has kept me hooked ever since.
Where were you? I looked for you, but you were not there. Oh, in the coffee shop, I'm waiting here. Cause you sent for me to meet. Oh, in the coffee shop.
That is Ghostkeeper, going back to 2008 with a cool piece of jangly indie rock called Mr. No Show from their debut album entitled Children of the Great Northern Muskeg, a title that I always found wildly intriguing, but the band bio said they were from Calgary, which is not so muskeggy. So years ago, I contacted Ghostkeeper and I asked them about that title. Turns out the leaders of the band, Sarah Houle and Shane Ghostkeeper, are both from northern Alberta. Sarah is from the Paddle Prairie Métis settlement, and Shane is from nearby High Level, which are both just about halfway between Edmonton and Yellowknife, like at the 750-kilometer mark. Since 2008, Ghostkeeper have released a string of cool, genre-bending albums that involve powwow, pop, 60s-style garage rock, and 90s indie. Here's a wild one.
I'm not scared, it's a sweet, sweet death. Until I hear her call my girl, she call me home like, girl, no need to holler, your voice beats my heart, it makes my heart beat, girl. If your tongue was longer, you would have licked my heart, but you skipped my heartbeat. The horse chief, hairdresser,
Yeah, that's Ghostkeeper with some of those genre blends I was talking about. Going back to 2012 there with Horse Chief, War Thief. This year, Ghostkeeper has released a new album. It's called Multi-Dimensional Culture, which showcases a maturation in sound, lots of great songs, some politically charged, others not, like this one called Roly, which is a cool, catchy kind of sing-along tribute to Shane Ghostkeeper's deceased grandfather, Roly.
I'm tired of struggling to juggle all this baggage I've been lugging around. I'm in a piece word bound now. Yeah, and it's a good thing, it's a good thing, it's a really good thing he remains here with me, cause well, everyone knows Roly, he's got a good twine, he got good form, he'll mend this mind, he'll bind this soul, he'll keep it warm, yeah, and keep it standing and strong. Oh yeah.
Shot in the Badlands of their native Alberta, that was Ghostkeeper with their fabulous new song called Roly from their new album, Multi-Dimensional Culture. And Roly is the song that you need to add to your playlist for this week. I'm Grant Lawrence from CBC Music. I'll check in with you again soon.
Hello, my name is Tim the Enchanter, and you're watching Our Vancouver. Good afternoon.
Now, there is an iconic display panel in North Vancouver that has been sparking laughter among people who pass by for more than 30 years. But the man behind those playful signs is signing off for good, and his departure is not going to go unnoticed. Just watch.
Bob Gibson has changed this sign hundreds of times before, but this time is different. After more than 3 decades, he will be putting the ladder and letters away for good.
The one side says I'm not re-signing, I'm retiring. And the other side is I'm all out of ideas, I'm signing off.
Over the years, Bob's witty writing has caught the attention of people from across Vancouver. And while the sign started out as a way to market the business, it quickly turned into an outlet for the print shop owner to express his humor and creativity.
As it's been going on for years, people will actually drive out of their way, come in, tell me how much they enjoy the sign. And that's, you know, it's great.
I've admired Bob for the whole time that he's been doing this.
And after Bob took to social media to announce his retirement, he was blown away by the response, with hundreds of people sharing their fondest memories online.
It really means a lot to me, you know, that this sign actually did make a difference, especially when you see ones where people have said, you know, they're having a real bad day, walk by the sign, cheers them up.
For some, Bob's retirement is bittersweet. This video on TikTok shows one Vancouver resident crying over the news, the video reaching more than 180,000 views.
Well, I told my wife to embrace her mistakes. She hugged me.
Bob says he's created about 700 different signs, using the same 5 lines and up to 13 characters, each idea jotted down in this red folder.
So I actually printed off a little grid that I can actually write the sign in and know if it's going to fit.
In a few weeks, Bob will be signing off for the final time, a legacy of laughter and tradition community members hope will continue for years to come.
I want Bob to retire, but I don't want the jokes to retire.
Bob says he will be handing his red folder over to the new owners, but what they do with those same 5 lines will be out of his hands.
A lot of felt pens on these letters.
Janella Hamilton, CBC News, North Vancouver.
Coming up, a deep-rooted system that helps trees in old-growth forests talk to each other. A local filmmaker explains. Welcome back to Our Vancouver. I'm Gloria Makarenko. Now, it's no secret that forests are a big part of British Columbia. But did you know, beneath the forest floor, an underground network allows trees to communicate with each other, something scientists are only beginning to understand.
Hi, my name is Jamila Pomeroy. I am a writer, model, actor, and filmmaker based in Vancouver, BC. I've been passionate about the environment my whole life, and I'm especially interested in making sustainability more accessible and a little bit more fun. We all know mushrooms to be a delicious kitchen staple, but a new scientific study has found that mushrooms are talking to trees through an underground network. This scientific study has proven forests to be even more interconnected than we imagine, with some mushroom and tree networks spanning over 100 kilometers underground. Deforestation is one of the leading causes of habitat loss and species extinction. It also exacerbates the effects of natural disasters like floods, forest fires, and mudslides. I'm in Squamish, BC, and I'm here to meet nature educator Ross Reed, aka Nerdy About Nature.
Nothing quite like a healthy forest ecosystem. A large amount of the carbon stored in these ecosystems exists near...
I wanted to ask him about some of the main issues surrounding deforestation.
Well, I mean, I think for me, the biggest root of the issue is that our Western society initially came to this part of the world and we immediately view forests as resources with economic values purely for timber. And when you look at a forest just for the timber values economically, you ignore all of the other societal, cultural, the ecological function that these forests have and serve. And it's really really difficult to put a price tag on that sort of thing. Say a company logs and they clear cut a big section of land and they make X amount of money, and then that section of land slides down into a small town, over a highway. Where's the value here? How do we not value the ecological function of these forests intact?
When we're cutting down one tree, a lot of the time we don't think of the connection and the network of trees that are connecting with each other. Can you tell me a little bit more about that network and just how that works?
A mycorrhizal fungi is a species of fungus that works underneath the soil, and it's this mycorrhizal fungi network that connects different tree species together, trees and species of plants and shrubbery in the understory as well, and together they all work in this symbiotic cycle, sharing nutrients and resources with one another so that they all can survive and thrive in these forest ecosystems.
And the crazy thing is, like, a lot of the time when we think of mushrooms, we think of, you know, the mushroom that we see on the ground, but that's just like a very small part of what a fungus is. Like, most of the fungus is actually underground, and from what I understand, the mycorrhizal is like this very starchy sort of root system that lives beneath.
So a good way to think about it is if you have a tree, right, and on that tree there's a fruit, that fruit is basically what a mushroom is to the fungus. So it's like when we see a mushroom on the ground, we think, oh, that's the mushroom, that's the fungus. That's only one part of its body, and the whole vegetative tissue of the fungus is actually this mycorrhizal network, this mycelium that lives underneath the soil.
When we think of deforestation, one of the main things that we think of is clear cutting, and we kind of think that is the last thing that happens, and you're just destroying the forest in that physical region, but there's more to it.
The trees are the most prominent things that we see, and that's often what we value these forests as. And then when we cut them down, sure, we lose the life of the trees, but with that, we also lose all the different things that held them together, the intricate root networks that work symbiotically with the different fungi species that live in the soil, which, you know, is going to make it more difficult for understory to grow back, which is going to make it a lot drier of a microclimate so that mosses aren't going to be able to exist here. And when we clear cut these areas, we're like fundamentally changing these ecosystems to a point when they may never come back. And if they do come back, it's going to take literally thousands of years. We can't just replant them and expect them to come back on a quick 70-year harvest cycle, which is the way that we're doing it now. And it's just, it's not reasonable.
Mushrooms and trees are working together to keep the forest healthy and thriving, and it's our job to help them.
Hi, this is Benji from Vancouver Studio Glass, and this is our Vancouver.
Now, bringing dogs, cats, even rabbits to a patient's bedside can help reduce the stress of being in hospital. But pet therapy, it's not just for people seeking treatment. Now, at BC Children's Hospital, it's also for the healthcare staff who provide that care.
Now, good boy! Smiles and laughter as nurses and hospital staff pet their new furry friends, taking a well-deserved break from their demanding work. Even though this program has been around for some time for patients, the pandemic has shown how much it's also needed for healthcare workers.
It's signaled to all of us that staff and providers need extra support, extra care, little extra attention, and we recognize how difficult it's been for them. Pet therapy is just one small way that we're able to say we recognize how challenging it is for staff.
This is hi. Come say hi. The idea came about when staff were asked what they wanted for Christmas. They all had the same answer: dogs.
We don't find much opportunity for quiet in this job. There's a lot of noise all the time and stimulation, and we're just a bit away from that for like physically, but then also mentally. It just helps our brains to sort of quiet down.
McCormick says the pandemic has been especially difficult, taking a physical and emotional toll on frontline workers while straining the overall healthcare system. Time with these pooches allows them some rest and to recharge.
Nurses tend to give 100% of themselves to this profession, and it's really hard to pull them away from their job when they're at work. And as one of the leaders, you know, my job is to help give them a little bit of a break, and having the dog there just really gives them that motivation.
The positive impact of the dogs has been visible.
If you see a caregiver coming off a really complicated situation on the floor and they're interacting, we can see a visible relief that can happen. We see smiling, we see laughter, we see snuggling with dogs, grown adults. It's wonderful.
The dogs visit staff at least once a week, and it's safe to say it's a treat for the healthcare workers here at BC Children's Hospital. Yasmin Gandam, CBC News, Vancouver.
Coming up, we'll meet a Vancouver-based filmmaker who wants you to upcycle your wardrobe to help fight climate change. Hi, welcome back to Our Vancouver. I'm Gloria Makarenko. Well, an award-winning filmmaker wants you to think twice before buying new clothes. Roxana Chapela co-produced and directed a film called Upcyclers, and Margaret Gallagher spoke with her on the CBC afternoon radio show On the Coast.
Upcycling is kind of recycling, but instead of leaving it like the same, it's up. You make something that's secondhand, that is maybe discarded or you don't want it anymore, and you fix it and make it better. And we were in the middle of a global lockdown, and due to our interactions online, the concept developed. We met with some amazing upcyclers from USA, Los Angeles, New York, one in Bangladesh, and we wanted to tell our story out loud because upcycling is inclusive. The more people doing it, the more impactful it becomes. So we wanted to spread the message because we feel we're leaving behind the age of greed and overconsumption to step into a new template of real human collaboration. It's a healthy ecosystem. No? So what most beautiful thing that we want the best message. The message was spread. Actually, all the change of fashion, of the fashion industry, or the fast fashion, harms the planet, the people. In those countries, is like the people is low paid. They contaminate, they pollute all the rivers, and they don't pay enough to the people. No? So all the natural resources are getting harmed, and that is shipped to these countries, right? But we are like buying so much and then discard it so soon. And we think that putting it in thrift stores is going to be enough. But to tell you the truth, only the 20%, 10% of those clothes, somebody else buy it. And then they ship it again to Guatemala, to Singapore, where they grab a little bit of more of those clothes, and the rest, you know what they do? They burn it. Mm. So yeah. Everything, and also as a woman, is like all these fashion industries, like they're asking us to be someone that we are not. Like we're losing our uniqueness in all this chain. So we are hoping with this film to inspire others to do upcycling, because as I said, more people doing it, the better. Well, it was like a new way of filmmaking, to tell you the truth, because I was directing from my home. So we decided to do an experiment to direct all these people with their own devices in their home. So the film has some difficult, not well outcome to say. I think it's beautiful because all these people, it was more intimate and raw what they recorded. So we gather images from them or also online, and I put it together I collaborate with my with the co-producer that is in San Francisco, and between the two of us, we told this story. We have to take the work in our own hands, like roll up their sleeve and take the work in our own hands instead of waiting for the fashion industry to fix it. It's like we fix our stuff, we buy secondhand, we upcycle our stuff. I think that is the way, and it's very empowering when you fix your stuff or buy secondhand or you support a local artist. And here in Vancouver, we have so many incredible local artists and so many people also that those secondhands or consignment and all that, the resources are there. Instead of waiting for this big giant to fix it for us, it's like, let's do it ourselves.
Hi, I'm Sarah on Robson Street, and this is our Vancouver.
When we bring you stories here at CBC Vancouver, we have award-winning photographers out capturing the images that say so much. Still images, they can add a different context, bring more to the understanding of an event or an issue. So here's a look at some of the latest from what happened this past week. That's all for Our Vancouver for this week. I hope you can join me weekday afternoons on CBC Radio 1 for On the Coast. For now, goodbye. Have a good week.